Alrighty, so here we are. We're looking at the unboxing portion of the Redragon Dharma 98. This is going to be one of their 98 key wired, fully aluminum mechanical keyboard. I'm pointing to all this for a reason. We have the RPC linear. It looks like it's going to be their gray switches, or the RPC grays, RGB, etc., etc. This is a full aluminum keyboard. Now, honestly, I heard too much shaking and wobbling. I'm sorry about the wobble when I was actually pulling this out the box, so I'm kind of concerned on what it looks like right now. But we're going to pop it out and see. You're getting your typical Redragon. You're getting your typical Redragon packaging as normal. They always do a good job at presenting it in a, what's the word I'm saying, a simplistic way, so you know exactly what you're getting every single time. You can see the features right there. You're looking at 98 keys, optimized layout, hot swappable, customized preloop mechanical switch, RGB, full aluminum body, and that's kind of what it looks like on the back of the board. We'll actually go ahead and get this open now. Okay, whew. Okay, I thought stuff in here was broken or missing. I was gonna say, man, it's no way in hell that I got one of these good aluminum boards and I've got to deal with broken switches already. All right, so typical, like usual in the box, you're gonna get your, dang, this is cold. It's cold here right now. You're gonna get your full aluminum keyboard. Let's see what the keys sound like. It's not nice. That's nice. Mechanical switches, obviously. That's what it looks like. So we're seeing there, we can confirm the gray switches, as it says here, the RPC linears, we can confirm. Pretty solid right now. The board is cold. You got the little dial knob there, etc., etc. We'll actually plug it in here in a second. Let's see what else we got in this box. You get your typical stickers like normal. So if you want to, paint your space with a bunch of stickers, you get your typical manual here, so you can know how to actually use the board and make everything work according to you. Because with limited space, you have to make all your keys work accordingly. Obviously, you're going to get your, and that's what that fell out. That's nice. You're going to get your key remover. You're going to get your USB cable. I believe this is a wired, so you will need to wire it to USB in order for it to work. Then you're going to get some additional switches. So you're going to see those sexy gray switches there. I let you just keep all my extra switches in a little bag. I have a bunch of Redragon switches. Like when I say a bunch, I mean I have a bunch of Redragon switches. The base looks pretty simple. It looks like we have actual stand here, which I do like. So we do have our integrated stand. You can see here, this is going to be model K740BG RGB. We do have the Pro version to look at as well, but we're not going to look at that as right now. When I pull out the Pro version, we'll actually compare the two side by side. The switches sound great. Hold up. Put this on here. The switches sound good. Yeah, I like that. That sounds really, really great. I'm going to guess about a 2 mil actuation here. That's usually typical of Redragon's mechanical boards, is a 2 mil actuation. I've had some that are 1.5 mil. I said I'm still a big fan of HE switches because I can adjust that actuation accordingly how I play. Right now I use the ESA Magnetic a lot. That is my favorite board at the moment. So usually in between reviews, like I usually am using my ESA Magnetic. That is lately. I was using the Penumbra for a while. But I was decided that I wanted to, use the ESA Magnetic because that was one of the newer ones they sent me. Even though the Penumbra is a good board, fully aluminum, it's just heavy. This is lighter than the Penumbra. I can actually hold it with one hand. The Penumbra is just heavy. You're like, oh my goodness, why so much weight? This is very, very light for an aluminum mechanical keyboard, which I am impressed with. Yeah, that's definitely aluminum. I'll just have to double check and make sure because it feels very, very light. Like when I say light, I mean it's extremely light. Like you think it's a PCB board, or you think it was not aluminum. But anyway, That's usually that's what you're getting in the box with this. That's what that looks like. Let's go ahead and plug this bad boy in so we can see what it actually looks like when it is actually plugged up, because obviously that's what we want to see as well. You know, I'm always trying to find the board. So this one's in the rear. All right, that's good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the light to the camera so we can see that much more fuller. There we go. So that's what your color grading is going to look like. I'm pretty sure, like always, you can use the Redragon software to, this is a mechanical board, so you use Redragon software to input macros, micros, stuff like that. Change over the way that you want your actual RGB lighting to look like. I like this. It's just going to stay like this. I usually keep it this way anyway. But that looks good. You have the top, looks like top indexed keys here, which is great. A lot of people like the side ones because when they're playing, you know, they can actually look down on the side and they can actually see this side mounted, the south side facings. I don't mind the top side facings. They're pretty solid in that context, but that's what you're getting when it comes down to this board. It looks nice. It looks really, really nice. It feels good. I actually want to get into some games and see how I feel about it. But this is going to be a 98 key, which you're getting your numeral pad and all the things that you need here. This is not a full keyboard, but this is going to be complete enough to accomplish the needs you need. You know what I mean? So this is kind of a layout that I do like, that is complete enough for the accomplished thing that you need, but I do still prefer a full size board. However the case, this is going to do just fine for now. And you know how we do. Let's go ahead and jump into some games and see how this bad boy actually runs. That looks cool. That looks clean. Let's jump into some games of Battlefield 6 and see how this bad boy actually runs. Now, I will say here that this is basically a mechanical board. So what I might do is we might do the review and then we might follow up with some extended gameplay depending on what I actually want to say within the script, or if I want to actually type up a script for this, because I feel like this is going to, well, the switches are new. We have not reviewed these switches yet, so I guess we can go right into a deep dive, especially on these particular switches. So yeah, just forget what I just stated. That overall impressions are great. Solid for I believe this is a $70 board, so pretty solid for a $70 board. Obviously, you know I'm a budget-minded gamer, so I do love working with Redragon because they create budget-minded products. 100%. So with that being stated, let's go actually hop on Battlefield 6 and see how this bad boy performs in an actual real world environment. You know, that's what you're here for, right? So let's go do that. All right, we've all been there. You're staring at your desk trying to solve the eternal problem of PC gaming peripherals. On one hand, you have the full size 100% battleship keyboard, the ones that I like, the ones that I prefer. It's got every key you would ever want, but it's a monster, a sprawling behemoth that shoves your mouse into the next zip code and makes a low DPI aiming a constant battle against the edge of your desk mat. On the other hand, you have the 10 keyless or TKLs. It's compact, it's clean, and it gives your mouse all the room it needs to essentially breathe. But that numpad, it's gone. It's gone. If you, just in case you need it, it's gone. And maybe you're one of the grinders who actually uses this numpad, not just for spreadsheets, but for complex keybinds in MMOs, for flight sims, for OBS hotkeys, or just logging into Windows without pecking at the number row. For years, the market has basically told us to pick our poison, functionality or space, TKL or full size, but there's a third option, a layout that has kind of existed in the enthusiast space for years, but is only now hitting the mainstream budget market with any real force. It's the 95% or 98 key layout. It's a design of efficiency, a layout that condenses the F key row, the navigation cluster, and the full 10 key numpad into a footprint that's barely wider than a TKL. It is, for many of us, the perfect compromise, and that brings me to the board on my desk right now. The Redragon Dharma 98, also known as the K740. Redragon has built its empire on the budget-conscious gamer, which, as we stated in the unboxing and impressions portion, It's one of the reasons why I enjoy representing Redragon, is because I myself am one of those budget conscious gamers. You are too. That's why you're watching this video. But they are the definition of value, often providing 80% of the features of a high-end peripheral for like literally 30% of the price. But the Dharma K740 feels different. When I first heard about it, the spec sheet read like a standard decent budget offering, because believe you, when I hear about it from my rep, they say, hey, we have these new boards we wanted you to try out and check out. And then from there, I actually go and read the spec sheet, see what it's about, etc., etc. You know me, nerdy stuff, you know what I'm saying? If you've been on the channel long enough, you know it gets really nerdy here, okay? But when you pull it out from the box, the first thing that hits you is the weight. This isn't a hollow plastic shell we come to expect. The Dharma's headline feature, it's solid aluminum base. And they aren't kidding with that, you know what I mean? The entire top plate and frame are a single milled piece of aluminum alloy, and it gives the board a shocking amount of heft, but not enough to like be counterweight. You know what I mean? Like, it's heavy, but it's firm enough to not be a counter, but it's light enough to not be a counterweight. I think I was talking about that in the first impressions unboxing portion, right? And but this isn't a cosmetic veneer at all. It's a structural choice. The practical application for a grinder is immediate and obvious. This keyboard just does not move. During the most chaotic firefights in Battlefield 6, when I'm slamming the wasted keys and my mouse is flying across the pad, the Dharma stays absolutely planted. Yes, there's zero flex, zero creak, zero rattle from this particular chassis. This tank-like build quality is the foundation for everything else, and it's the first sign that Redragon is aiming far higher than its usual price point would suggest. But the build is just the foundation. The real star here is that 98 key layout, as I mentioned in the unboxing portion. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I haven't had to compromise. My primary test bed for this has been Battlefield 6. You guys know that we've been grinding this. We've been playing it. I've been enjoying it. It's a game that demands fast, responsive, 360-degree, literally, awareness. And in these moments, you know, if whether you're like flying a helicopter or tracking a flanking enemy, I need all the mouse room I can get on my very small space. And a traditional full-size board, even though it's my preference, is a constant physical interruption sometimes, most of the time. My mouse hand slamming to the side. With the Dharma, that problem is gone. And like literally, I actually run high DPS settings on my mouse because of the very minimal space I have to work with when it comes down to sliding my mouse around. So that's why I run high DPI settings on my mouse, right? But still, with the Dharma, that problem is gone. I have the TKL freedom, that wide open space for sleeping, and I can actually now utilize a lower DPI mouse movements if I need to. And yet, when the match is over and I'm back on the desktop, tapping over to OBS to check my stream settings or my recording settings, or jumping into a game of Arma per se, maybe Arena Breakout, maybe something else, you know what I mean, Helldivers 2, it's right there. That classic cluster of keys is a dedicated macro pad, a bank of binding for complex functions that I don't have to cram onto my F keys or relearn with awkward modifiers. This is the 98% solution. It retains full functionality while reclaiming the most valuable resource a grinder has. I'm looking at it now. It's called desk space. Now, of course, a good chassis and a smart layout are nothing if the actual experience of using the keys is bad. This is another area where Redragon really surprised me with this particular set of keys. I think you remember in the unboxing portion I said that we actually haven't reviewed a board with this particular switches, so I wanted to kind of talk about these switches. All right, let's go. Speaking of that, the standard K740 model comes with their custom Dragon Chant linear switches, which I've confirmed, as we talked about in the first impressions portion, are also boxed as RPC linear switches. These are identifiable by their gray colored stems, which for me is going to be the first time using these switches from Redragon. They are, to put it plainly, fantastic for a stock switch, in my opinion. They are linears with a very light 40-gram actuation force that kind of equates to about 1.7 to 2 mils of actuation here. It's very reminiscent of using something like the ESA Magnetic or the Penumbra in its basic format, right? It's a stock format. You get it. The magnetic keys are 1.7 mil actuation. That's what it feels like. I kind of can't really tell the difference. They've done a really good job at making these keys feel as if you are using higher end magnetic switches. You get what I'm saying? Or making these switches feel like you're using higher end magnetic switches, but you know they're not. You can't adjust the actuation. You can't do any of that kind of good stuff. They're just simple mechanical switches that I believe are at a comfortable 40 gram actuation force at roughly about 1.7, maybe 1.8 or 1.9 mil. In game, this translates to speed. My fingers fly across the keys. There's no heavy tactile bump to fight against. No loud click to distract. Well, there's a loud click, but it's not super loud. It's actually satisfying click. In Battlefield 6, strafing, tap firing, and panic hitting the reload key feel instantaneous and effortless. The lightness helps significantly with finger fatigue during multi-hour grinding sessions, which if you play keyboard and mouse, and you know, if you're getting in the older stage, you know that as you are playing long hours on keyboard and mouse, your fingers, your hands, it takes a toll on them. It does. But nonetheless, I still enjoy it. The real story, though, is the factory lubrication. Now, out of the box, these switches are pretty smooth. There's none of that sandy, scratchy plastic feeling that plagues 99% of budget mechanical keyboards. The sound profile is a clean, satisfying clacky or ticky sound. It's not that deep, muted thok that the high-end custom builders chase with layers of foam and expensive switches, but it's a pleasant, consistent sound with no metallic spring ping. They are genuinely usable, even kind of enjoyable. Writing this script was awesome because it felt good, responsive, right from the jump. Then this is a massive win, in my personal opinion, right? Massive win, okay? But the best part is that you're not locked into them. The Dharma 740 has a 5-pin hot swappable socket. This is, in my opinion, the most important feature for any keyboard aspiring to be more than just a temporary peripheral. This feature turns the Dharma from a budget board into a keyboard platform. The heavy aluminum chassis, or more like light heavy, medium heavy, whatever, is your base. The switches are modular. If you decide that you want to try a heavy tactile switch or a premium linear or even a clicky switch, you don't need a soldering iron. You just pull out the old ones and press in the new ones. When my W key inevitably starts to feel a bit worn after 1,000 hours of gameplay, which probably on this board we'll never see, but I know that on other boards will, I won't have to throw the entire keyboard away. Just being honest, okay? I can just swap that single switch in about 15 seconds. This is the upgrade path. This is longevity. I actually do have other Redragon boards that I have actually upgraded with better switches, and I don't even use them as much anymore because I just got so many boards here that I find my favorites and I just stick to them. Even when I have upgraded ones, it's crazy how sometimes stock boards, especially the magnetic ones they send me, I always find a place on my desk, semi-permanent place on my desk, so they send me more stuff, right? But still, like I said, the upgrade path is there, and this is great for longevity. So the rest of the features just round out the package, punchy, well above their weight. The keycaps are PBT, not the cheap ABS plastic that turns shiny and greasy after a few months. Like I was saying, that the actual chassis of the board isn't the normal typical PBT. It's aluminum, and but it feels similar to a more heavier weight PBT as opposed to a cheap ABS that some of Redragon boards, don't get me wrong, but some of Redragon boards feel like, right? But the key caps in themselves are PBT. And they're not the ABS plastic, and they're not going to turn shiny or greasy after a few months or a few hours of use. This means that the matte texture will last. The legends are shine through, and the north-facing RGB LEDs do a great job of illuminating them evenly. And as I mentioned, some people prefer south-facing, but north-facing works just as fine, depending on your environment, depending on how you're using the board and playing, etc., etc., right? Now, There is also a dedicated multifunction control knob in the right corner for volume, etc., etc. Out of the box, like I said, it controls volume, media, and being able to quickly pick a tactile volume adjustment in the middle of a Battlefield 6 match without alt-tabbing or fumbling for a function key combo. It's a quality of life feature I'm no longer willing to live without. And it just gives me a backup option for when my Redragon Stream Deck goes down, because that's mainly what I use when I'm actually doing my editing and other things like that, and gaming and things like that. I actually use my Stream Deck to kind of do a lot of my workflow. So even when I'm not streaming, I'm still using the deck for a lot of my workflow. So keep that in mind. The community sentiment I've seen online kind of mirrors my own experience here. One of a pleasant surprise. Most reviews highlight the exceptional value. They pick it up, feel the weight, and are immediately impressed. The main critiques are minor and frankly expected. The 98 key layout means that finding a custom replacement keycap set can be a bit more challenging than the standard TKL, as you need to make sure the set includes a shorter right shift key and the numpad cluster keys, right? Keep that in mind. And yes, there is a Redragon logo printed on the front-facing edge, which some minimalists might not like, but me, hey, I've been representing Redragon for so long, I don't care. But these are just tiny little nitpicks on an otherwise outstanding package. Now, my time with the Redragon Dharma K740, especially using it as my daily driver for right now for Battlefield 6, has been exceptional. And we're going to be jumping over to the Pro here in a second. But it's a board that delivers on a very specific promise: no more compromises. It gives you the desk space of a TKL and the full functionality of a 100% board. It wraps it in a heavy, but not so heavy enough to where it feels like a counterweight, premium feeling aluminum chassis that stays locked onto your desk. And it gives you a clear future-proof upgrade path with 5-pin hop swap sockets. This is just as good. This isn't a just a good keyboard for the money. It's a genuinely good keyboard, full stop. Redragon has delivered a platform that is kind of perfect for the grinder who does more than just play one type of game. The grinder who needs a tool that is as effective in an FPS as it is in an MMO, or as it is doing workflow on your desktop. It's also worth noting that a Pro model does exist, which adds 3-mode wireless and different switches. I have one in my possession as well, which we'll talk about, and I'll be doing a full comparison at a later date. But for the wired K740, the one we're talking about today, Redragon didn't just hit home. They built a whole new stadium for the budget-conscious grinder. So if all this information that you saw in this video or heard in this video appeases you and you want to go ahead and purchase the Redragon K740, you say, hey, I want the aluminum chassis, I want the mechanical switches, I'm not a fan of HE switches, I feel like this is a really good solid option. I do like the new, what do they call it, Dragon Chant keys. Solid RPC linear switches, 100%. Beautiful gray switches. I like these switches a lot. I'm actually looking forward to using the 98 Pro with similar switches. But the idea here is that this is a really solid board for its price tag. It is only a 1000 Hz board, so keep that in mind. But still, nonetheless, it's still been responsive, it's still been playable, and it's still been usable in its context. Unlike the other board that I used previously before this one, as you guys have heard in that review, I have had no response delays or input delays with this one. This one has just worked flawlessly out the gate. And it feels really good to type with, to play with, etc., etc. Very, very good. You know what I mean? I like it a lot. And if you want to experience that, there is the link in the description below that will allow you to get a little bit of percentage off your next Redragon purchase of this particular board if you want this one, or others that are on their website. And it also comes back to support the channel, because the more you guys purchase stuff for Redragon, the more stuff I can actually put back into the channel. Simple. You know how that goes, right? With all that weird, shameless or shameful plugs aside, I'll let you go back at it, because right now I want to get back on Battlefield 6 and do some more grinding. So I guess I'll see you in the trenches, and hopefully not with this same keyboard, because you might just own me. But we'll be back.